Hello, I'm High Knight. Welcome to my channel. This is my reaction to the announcement trailer for the New Warriors comic book scheduled to be released in April 2020. This isn't going to be your typical reaction video because I first learned about this new roster of heroes on YouTube. You log on to YouTube, it gives you a bunch of suggested videos. I love the New Warriors. Like, okay, well, let me check out whatever this is all about. It wasn't until the following day that I found out there was an actual trailer from the writer and creator of this new team. I was like, oh, okay, well, now I'll watch it since I know all the information from everybody else on these posts. So there is a link to the actual announcement trailer if you want to watch it in the description. I recommend you check it out. But yeah, since I already know all the gist of it and the actual trailer stuff is not something like amazing, I'm just going to give my thoughts on the team itself. And the reason why I'm doing this is because there's been a lot of negative reaction to the new team members. Lots of like, oh, woke warriors, lots of use of the Steve Buscemi meme. You know, there's a lot of negative reaction. And from what I can tell, most of these negative reactions are from people that are comic book fans, but not really fans of the New Warriors. And I've loved the New Warriors ever since the 90s, this first issue. I've bought several comic books of the New Warriors first run when I could afford to buy comics. And even though I haven't experienced every issue and every storyline, whenever there's a new team or a new storyline, I try to pick up a book or two to check out the new happenings and what's going on. And there's been all types of crazy members. For instance, there's a character called Microbe who can talk to germs, which sounds silly, but considering the health crisis that's going on right now, a person that can communicate with germs will be probably very useful. There's also a character called Debris who's telekinetic with garbage. And there's even a character called Slapstick, who is basically a teenager that becomes a living cartoon. So there's been all types of crazy members when it comes to the New Warriors. And if you haven't ever heard of this team, even though they've been around since the 90s, it's because they never really had a chance to be mainstream. It's both famous members, Firestar. She was introduced in the 80s cartoon Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And the other most famous member is Squirrel Girl, who was brought into the team very late, like a couple of years ago, to help boost sales, similar to how Wolverine and Spider-Man were brought into the Avengers to help boost those sales. So yeah, you probably have never heard of the New Warriors. There was even potentially going to be a TV series on the Freeform network, but that got dropped. So yeah, long story short, don't know who the New Warriors are. Teenage superheroes, new comic book coming out in April 2020. Let me give you my thoughts on the new members, starting with the leader, Trailblazer. She's described as a foster care kid that was helping out in a senior center, and I guess some craziness happens. Night Thrasher comes along, helps out, and she winds, I guess, helping him. And her superpower is that she possesses a magical backpack that she got from her grandfather. So I guess she doesn't have superpowers. She just has this backpack with some type of, you know, infinite void, sort of like Mary Poppins or something. You know, I do like the idea that she is, you know, of the heavier side and is the leader, so that's kind of cool. I only don't like the costuming, particularly the pants, because there's this off-center design that's like, why is that there? It's just off-center for the sake of being off-center, and I don't really want to need any extra attention to the, you know, pelvic area of a teenage girl. Next we have B Negative, and this character seems to have gotten the most positive response. He is a teenager with vampire powers. He got some type of blood transfusion when he was a baby from the supervillain Michael Morbius. And I guess he has similar powers to that. I don't, you know, and he has this cool look. He's obviously goth. Every team needs that, you know, dangerous outsider goth character, like your Wolverines, like your Ravens, you know. So yeah, that seems to be the most well-received character. He's apparently into old music from the 80s and 90s. I guess to a teenager that's around in the 2020s, the 80s and 90s would be old music, but that was just strange to hear. And next we have Screentime, which has been getting a lot of jokes about because his power comes from his grandfather's experimental internet gas. That's what the writer creator said. He gets his power from the grandfather experimental internet gas, and all of us are like, what is that? What is experimental internet gas? You know, that's like, to me, that's like the most sci-fi thing I've ever heard since a Sharknado. You know, those kind of super B and C list sci-fi things that really just make up nonsense words. So I'm hoping in the actual book it's explained a little better, and the writer director just trying to think of something easy to explain and just came up with experimental internet gas. How do you make the internet into a gas form? That's just so weird. But basically, he's a tech person, and he has a permanent link to the internet. And one of the things he teases about is that the writer director says, yeah, he can Google anything at once. So people are like, well, I got a cell phone. I could Google anything at once. Like, can he only use Google? Can he use Bing or anything like that? But basically, I'm guessing he's a little bit like the cyborg character. Modern version of cyborg is that he's linked to pretty much every computer on Earth, including the Batcave, so he can research things instantly. He can find out information instantly. So I'm guessing that's what Screentime is supposed to be like. He just has constant access to internet. But he also says that Screentime sees augmented reality. And I'm like, what do you mean augmented reality? Does that mean he sees Pokemon wherever he goes? Does that mean if he's talking to someone, he could just imagine a Snapchat filter on their face whenever he wants? You know, I don't understand what these powers are really supposed to mean. So hopefully they'll be better in the book. And finally, the most controversial characters of this roster, Snowflake and Safespace. Woo! Okay, let's see. Where shall we start? Let's start with Safespace. So his powers is that he can create force fields, but only when he's protecting other people, which could be interesting, but I wouldn't be surprised if they drop it after like the 5th or 6th issue, because that means he basically can't ever be by himself. If his superpowers only activate when he's protecting other people, then he can never be by himself. He can never go on his own missions. So, you know, he's going to have to need some type of weird upgrade. But the strange thing is that he's said to be a stereotypical jock. And I'm like, he's wearing neon pink, and with neon pink hair and neon pink eyes and neon pink earrings, and you're saying he's the typical jock? Like, no. I mean, what, did you grow up watching the Hart Foundation and Ric Flair? Like, okay, well, those pro wrestlers, they all wear pink, so I guess it's cool for guys to wear pink. And yes, there was a time when pink was for boys and blue was for girls, so maybe this person is referring to that. But yeah, you don't design a character that looks that way and say, yeah, this is a stereotypical jock. You know, you just and then we have Snowflake, who is non-binary, so she's obviously female, but she goes by them and they. Oh, the concept of non-binary just really frustrates me. But her power is that she can, I guess, form with solid light fixtures, and they're designed like snowflakes, and she uses them as throwing stars, which is okay, fine, but the names themselves, Snowflake, Safespace, they're like sort of derogatory terms, and the idea is that they're owning shit. They're rebelling against the stereotypes of what safe space means and what a snowflake means. But as another YouTuber pointed out, you can sort of work with the idea of a safe space, but snowflake is just plain derogatory. It's like calling a character dumbass or moron, or, you know, and saying, oh, I'm owning the name of dumbass or moron. It's like snowflake is a heard insult in the, so it's like, snowflake is fragile, it's tiny, it's minuscule, so. But then again, we have a superhero called Ant-Man, so maybe it can work, I don't know. And these characters, Snowflake and Safespace, they're twins, so they're siblings one another. Yet in the cover of issue 1, they're in a embrace, very reminiscent of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in the Marvel Ultimate storyline, because they're twins and they had an incestuous relationship. And I don't know if Game of Thrones has just thrown out everyone's sense of morality, but it's like every time I turn around, there's some new incest theme or incest imagery, even in Star Trek Picard, which just drives me nuts. So it's like, this book is designed for teenagers, so I don't know why you would have reminiscence of incest on your first issue. Maybe that's just to help draw up sales and draw up controversy and get everybody to look on to the product. But yeah, this really is targeted to teenagers and kids. I don't know what's going on. And let's talk about the writer-creator himself. His name is Daniel Kibblesmith. And he says in the trailer, when he was young, he saw the New Warriors comic, he was intimidated by it. He felt they were too cool for him. And like Night Thrasher had a blade in his wrist or something like that. And I'm thinking, how young were you to think the New Warriors were too cool for you, or any comic book is too cool for you? I mean, I don't have kids, but I was young once. And I've never heard of any kid of my generation or any of my nieces and nephews' generation thinking, oh my goodness, that comic book is too cool for me or too intimidating for me. Maybe it might seem boring, maybe it might seem uninteresting, maybe not the same thing, but oh my goodness, I can't handle it. It's just too cool for me. What does that even mean? And you listen to this guy in the trailer, it's like he comes off trying to be modern, even though he's probably in his mid-30s or something like that. So he does sound like one of those Steve Buscemi memes of trying to be hip and cool for the young people of today. So I'm hoping, overall, with this team and this new direction, I am hoping that the actual books are much better than these images and these descriptions that the writer, Mr. Kibblesmith, is designing. Maybe he's a great writer, but he might be terrible at self-promoting. It's sort of like professional wrestling, you know, promo, salesmanship, those are unique skills. So Brock Lesnar, he's an amazing athlete. He's strong. He can, you know, beat people up. He can go for several minutes, even though his matches usually last about 10 minutes. He could go for a good, you know, half hour or even an hour if he wanted to. But when it comes to promos, he's terrible at it. He's never been good on the mic. So that's why they always pair him up with Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman does all the talking and the promos. Brock Lesnar just does the beating up. So maybe this guy, Daniel Kibblesmith, maybe he's a great writer and really good at all these stories, but he needs to find a Paul Heyman if he ever is going to do any more announcement trailers like this. So bottom line, am I going to pick up this comic book? Not immediately. First of all, I have a very limited income, so it was like I gotta watch every penny. But, you know, after a few months, maybe there's a nice little volume collection, like, you know, 1 through 6, and I can just pick that up and look through the first major story arc. That's probably what I'll wind up doing. But I am interested, and I don't see this as the potential downfall of Marvel or downfall of comic book stores. Comic book stores were going down a long time ago for the New Warriors. But yeah, I am basically excited, but yeah, Daniel Kibblesmith probably needs to find himself a Paul Heyman. All right, so those are my thoughts on these New Warriors. I would love to know what you thought of all this. Be sure to share with our comments in the comment section. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or dislike, share, and subscribe. Once again, I'm High Heel Knight. Thank you for watching, and remember, find inspiration everywhere.